All right, good evening, everybody. Kindly confirm if you can hear me clearly in the chat section.
Yes, we can.
All right, so I am Afrigan, UI UX designer at a law firm, and I'm a student, a final year computer science student. I've been in this field for close to 3.5 years. What else? I hate programming. That's one fun thing about me. I don't know if it's fun, but yeah, I hate programming. Yeah, I think that's a little bit about me, unless of course there's another question. If you're a developer here, I'm sorry, but I don't like programming. I guess we can get into it, Emanuela. Can you confirm if we can start? Or we are still waiting for something?
You can.
Yes, you can go ahead.
All right, so let me share my screen. I have a little bit of presentation. Kindly enable screen sharing from your end.
Okay. Okay. You can go ahead and share your screen.
Okie dokie. All right. All right. So I'll be talking to you today about user experience. A little background story though. I wanted to talk on Figma and UI and all that, but Emanuela said someone already taken that. This is actually my favorite part because I like seeing the colors and putting shapes together, you know, creating something very, very aesthetic, right? Something very, very visually appealing. Because when I started my career, I thought that was what everything was about when it comes to UI, UX, but little did I know that there's the experience side of things. Now, a lot of mistake beginners do in this field is when they start, they think they just need to learn how to use Figma or XD. I'm sorry, at any point in time, if I'm breaking or something, kindly let me know by voice because I can't see the chat section.
All right.
So, thank you. So a lot of mistakes people do is they think, oh, I just need to learn how to use Figma, XD, Photoshop, any tool. Once I'm able to design, I can call myself UI, UX designer, or I can, you know, just start working for companies and all that. Now, don't get me wrong. We have people that are just experienced or that are just good in the visual side of things where they just do the UI. We have people that are working on the user experience side, and we have people that combine both roles. Now, if you look at the name, anywhere you go, you see UI, UX, and that's to say there's two sides to it, right? Now, there's a lot of arguments on the internet that is UI the same as UX. Today, we'll dive into that. I'll not touch on UI, but probably maybe will come up in my my topic. So let's get right into it. Introduction to user experience. Now, like I said, everything to designing a digital product is not just about the visual side of things. There's the experience side of things when it comes to designing a digital product. There was this statement I saw where someone designed user experience to be the design behind the visual. So when you look at a mobile application, the design behind that visual is what is termed as user experience. Because normally people don't get to understand what UI is, so they don't get to feel what UI is, but then it's what happens at the back scene or at the background that we term user experience. So I'm going to show you a few explanations from the internet, and then we'll discuss that. I would want this class to be a little bit interactive. Oh, come in, let me join from another device so that I can see your chats. Give me 1 second, please. Okay, so, and please allow the other guy in. Thank you. All right, now I can see your chats. Please let's make it interactive. If you have any question, just drop it. Anything to add, you can drop it. Now, what is UX? What is user experience? Now, most of the times, anytime I see user experience and I see people's picture attached to it, then I didn't understand why. That's to let you understand that user experience has to do with people, right? It's not just about what you're designing or the Figma tool you're using. It has to do with people's emotions. So, few explanations. User experience is one of the determining, no, okay, this is not an explanation, but a point from interaction design. It's one of the determining factors, if not the determining factor, between a product that sings without trace and one that sees huge sales. Now, when digital products are launched, right, the fact, whatever determines a product being successful in the market, it is the experience. Because if you design a product that does not meet its need, or you design a product based on assumptions, you are going to fail a lot, or that product is going to just sink right in the market. There are so many products out there that comes out and then they don't perform well. That's because everything was done based on assumptions, right? So UX is what determines that. Now, from Wikipedia, user experience is how a user interacts with and experiences a product, system, or service. It includes a person's perception of utility, ease of use, and efficiency. Now, what I like about this definition is it is how a user interacts with and experiences a product. Now, it doesn't end with that. It has service and system and services. Now, user experience doesn't end with digital products alone. It goes on to systems, services. When you go to the hospital, I like giving this example a lot. When you go to the hospital, the banks, if you're going to buy a wache, if you don't know what wache is, it's a Ghanaian food. If you're going to buy wache or anything, the process you go through, or the kind of structures put in place to get things done over there has to do with the user experience. Because when you go to certain banks, you get to maybe open an account very fast because of the measures put in place and their processes. But then another bank is going to give you a very long process, and all this is user experience because it aims at making things very, very, very easy for a user to use. So the second part of the definition says it includes the person's perception of utility, ease of use, and efficiency. You don't want to stress your user. One thing you need to put in your head is you don't want to stress your user when it comes to building anything, whether a digital product or a system or putting a structure in place. You don't want to stress your user because there are so many competitors out there. When we pick something like social media platforms, right? There are so many social media platforms competing with Instagram or WhatsApp or Snapchat. So if Snapchat is stressing me, I would go to WhatsApp. If WhatsApp is stressing me, I'll go to LinkedIn. If LinkedIn is stressing me, I'll go to Telegram. Now, when you ask everyone using a particular social media platform, there's a reason behind why they are using it, and there's a reason behind why they're not using the other one. And that's to say the user experience of each product is quite different, and everyone and how they do this. So Snapchat might give people privacy, right? Some people like privacy, so at least you've met that need. LinkedIn, or let's say Telegram might, let me use Telegram. Telegram maybe has made things very, very simple for people, editing message, downloading stuff. So yes, I want Telegram because I can download movies or music very simple, right? So that's one definition from Wikipedia. Another second definition is UX is the process of enhancing users' satisfaction with a product by improving the usability, accessibility, and pleasure provided in interaction with the product. So it's a process of enhancing user satisfaction. So if you look at the two definitions we have, let me go back to the second one. It doesn't take out a user, right? That's like I mentioned at the beginning. User experience has to do with people. It has to do with customer, whoever you're creating the products for. You don't assume over here. Now, the third definition, user experience can be defined as a person's perceptions and response that result from the use or anticipated use of a product, system, or service. This is my favorite explanation. Now, let me tell you why. It's a person's perception. Now, they take out the word user and then they put a person here. That's to tell you that, hey, we are talking about humans here. Humans have emotions, you understand? Their perception and response that results from the use or anticipated use of a product. Now, I don't know how many of you have been frustrated from using an app before. In this context, I'm going to be using digital product a lot. I don't know how many of you have been frustrated from using a digital product before, but bro, there's this, what's it called? Is it Callbank? Yes, Callbank. And their mobile application is very, very, very bad. And the first time I downloaded this application, it gave me so many problems that I became frustrated. And in like the next 10 minutes, I just deleted it. And I decided not to bank with them again because of the experience I got from their digital product, right? So when you are building a product and you decide to put your users aside, people's emotions aside, and just design for your sake, and that's how you're going to feel a lot, you're going to sink out there. So user experience can be defined as a person's perceptions and their response from the results from the use or anticipated that results from the use or anticipated use of a product, system, or service. So if they are using it and they are smiling, they are all happy and everything, you can tell something positive is happening. If they are using it and they have their face frowned and they are like, what app is this? What's going on here? Like they are confused as to which button to click to perform one action, then you know that there's something wrong with the experience of this mobile application, right? Now, UX design, I'm trying to break it down to the very simplest form. So in the simplest form is the process of developing useful and usable things, being physical or digital. And so at the beginning, I mentioned it's not just limited to the digital products. Light bulbs, coffee makers, microphones, wardrobes, everything has a user experience. So if you go online, I don't know if you've seen those funny memes about pictures where I think there was one where what's it called, Seth? The water closet was made on a stairs. So someone has to climb before they can use it. And when you sit on it, your legs are going to hang. That's a very bad experience right there made for the user. There are so many funny ones out there. And one I don't like is when you use washrooms, right? You know, the tabs in washrooms. There are so many different, depending on which washroom you're using. Some of them you have to press, some of them you have to turn. And there's no instruction or there's no direction. And that right there, once I have to think about 10, 20 seconds, the experience is bad. And something like that can be solved by a simple direction or press to perform this, that's all. But you don't do that. And that experience in that bathroom, the sink over there are just filled, understand? Now, there's something known as the Ux Honeycomb, which explains this further. There are 7 factors that describes what a UX, or that describes UX. And it's a classic UX diagram outlining the 7 essential aspects of UX. So we'll look at the 7 things and then I'll explain each one of them in detail. Is there any question at this point? Please put in the chat if you're following, in case I'm moving fast. Everyone, or they can type in the chat.
Okay, I think they will drop their questions. So guys, please, if you have question, you can drop it on the chat, please.
Right. Please
Thank you.
be active so that I know you're not sleeping. All right, I'm with you. Okay, thank you very much. So the 7 factors. Now, there's usable, there's findable, there's credible, there's valuable, there's useful, there's desirable, and then there's accessible. Now, with common English, we should be able to define what every single one of these mean, right? Now, usable. One second.
So hello guys, I think he's still online. Maybe it's his network, he'll be back. So just be patient, let's give him some time.
Okay, sorry. I muted myself and I couldn't unmute. Kindly confirm if you can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you.
All right, so the 7 factors that describe UX. So usable. A product needs to be simple, easy to use, and familiar. Now, when you develop a digital product, you don't want to complicate things, right? A lot of digital products, like for example, the example I was given with Cowbank, that application failed because everything was made complicated. Even after signing up to the product, there are so many complications in there. You don't know where to go to perform an action. You don't know where to go to send money, to buy airtime and all that. Now, you want your product to be very, very, very simple and easy to use. Now, the key word I like here is familiarity. Now, one thing you should put in your mind is when it comes to digital product, don't try and reinvent the wheel. Don't try and reinvent the wheel. For example, what example can I give? You see, normally when you download mobile apps, the bottom navigation is at the bottom, like the name says, bottom navigations. Don't try and say, I want to be very creative, and then you make the bottom navigation a side navigation on the mobile app. In some cases, it might work, but then you just confuse the user because, I mean, for someone that has been using, let's say, products for a very, very long time, I think I listened to one UX product designer, and then he gave some numbers, I've forgotten, as to the number of years people spend on their phone. If maybe you're 60 years, you might have spent, let's say, about 20 years on your phone. And if you look at that, you realize that that's a lot of years. So people begin to get familiar with a lot of things. So you don't want to reinvent it, and then you open your application for the first time, and then, bro, everything has been put all over the place. That's one. Two, when, let's say, a company is redesigning their product, right? A lot of time, they might move a few things around. And if you update the application, you realize that when you get into the application, sometimes there are some onboardings that direct you. You see that those little arrows and then modal saying, okay, this year is doing this year is doing that, this year is doing this. I'll share an article from NN Group that talks about the different types of onboarding, but they try to get you on board with them as to the different updates that I've made, because they realize that, oh, they made you accustomed to their old structure, their old layout, and then they've moved things around. So to prevent the user from becoming confusing, right? Or to prevent any confusion from happening here, they adopt that onboarding process and then show you that, okay, this has been moved here, you can do this by doing this. And that's one key thing you can put in mind. So when it comes to usability or usable, you make sure your product is very, very, very simple, easy to use and familiar. Now, useful. A product must fill a need. If the product isn't filling a perceived gap in the user's life, then there's no real reason for them to use it. We all have reasons why we use a particular digital product. There's a reason why every single person on this call is using Zoom, or we chose Zoom, right? We wanted to communicate via the internet, and we decided to pick one product that can help us share screen, that can help us share videos, chat, and everything. If Zoom limits us to just talking and we can't share screen, and there's another product that allows us to share screen, we'll all agree that we'll go for that product. 1 second, guys. We would all agree that we'll go for that product. So when you're designing a digital product, it needs to fill a gap. It needs to be useful to that user. Let me take a few steps back in my slides. Where's this thing? No, I'm looking for something. I don't think I'm sure it's here. So that's useful. Now, desirable. The visual aesthetics of the product need to be attractive and evoke positive emotions. So because UI is different from UX, doesn't mean that when you get your UX right, you need to design the product anyhow. Aesthetics really, really matter, because when I pick a product, I don't know if any of you have used the MTN app before. The MTN app aesthetically is not that good, but then in experience-wise, they are performing their work, right? In a case where the aesthetics was bad and the experience was also bad, no user is going to use that. So you need to make sure you're designing a product that's visually appealing to the eyes, because if your layout is poor and everything, the audio isn't clear. Can anyone else confirm?
So I think it's clear from my end. Please, whoever made that complaint, please can you check your network and adjust it? Thank you.
All right, let me continue. So when a user downloads the digital product, first thing, I mean, even before they even start using the application, the first thing they are seeing is the visuals, the UI elements, and all that. So to get the user satisfaction, you make sure that it's very, very, very appealing. Don't design anyhow. Now, findable. If the user has a problem with the product, they should be able to quickly find a solution. Now, that's why normally when you go to a website, they have FAQs, frequently asked questions, to prevent you from questioning yourself a lot. So if you design a product, don't make it so difficult for a user to find a solution to the problem. Maybe they want to do something from your mobile app. There should be somewhere on your website they can find that solution even before contacting you, or there should be at least a customer support within the application. Now, accessible. The product or service needs to be accessible to everyone, including those with disabilities. And that's where accessibility comes inside. You don't restrict your application to just people who can type or people who can see. If you check your colors a lot, normally a red color might be different. It might look somewhere green or brown to another person, depending on the disability they have. So when you're designing, you need to check all those things. That's I think when you go to LinkedIn or Instagram and you're posting, they give you the chance to add alt text and all that. All this comes in place. Things like on mobile phones, you can, how do you call it? You can use your phone with just voice. That comes with accessibility, because let's assume your fingers are cut. Let's assume you can't use your hand. All those things come in place. And then credible. The company and its products needs to be trustworthy. You don't want to be a fraud outside there. So these 7 factors describe what UX is and what the usable product is. So we have usable, we have useful, we have desirable, findable, accessible, and then credible. Now, like I said, with common English, you should be able to describe this in your process. When you're working, one question is, my product usable? Is it simple to use? Is it familiar? Have I reinvented everything, anything? Have I done things totally different from what is out there in the market? Is it useful? Am I actually solving a real world problem? Because a lot of times when ideas come up or when stakeholders present you with an idea or a problem, most of them are assumptions. So you need to validate that problem and then come up with an actual solution that is solving a problem, not a problem that exists in just the stakeholder's mind. Desirable. You need to up your design skills in terms of visuals. Don't just design anyhow or anything. Let it be visually nice. And speaking on that, most designs out there recently, especially when you're starting your career and you go to Dribble, right? Most of those products, they are not usable in the market, like I mentioned. Most of them are just for aesthetic pleasing. They're just nice, right? For Dribble's sake. That's not to say you can't do them. Sometimes you do some of those designs to make you creative, but then when it comes to solving an actual problem with a digital product, some of those designs don't help. So if you're looking for inspiration, that would be a bad place to go. The other platforms you can check them, I'm not touching that. Findable, accessible, and credible. So those are the 7 factors. Now, what is the importance of user experience? Oops, let me correct this. What is the importance of user experience? Now, it provides products that meet users' needs and builds a better customer satisfaction. So if you followed along from the definitions we had, every single thing when it comes to user experience has to do with the people, the user, and whoever is using your product. So if we want to design a product, now, I think one course I took, the instructor said something that a lot of mistake designers do is they assume they are their designers, or they think they are designers, they are their users. Example, let's say I'm working on a banking application, right? I was thinking, oh, I bank with this bank. This is where I do everything. So I know how the users want or how the customers of that bank want the application. But that's a big mistake, because when you pick the different type of people that bank there, you realize that there's a very wide range of different professions, age groups, careers, everything. So you don't have to assume, you as one person, you can't assume for about 10,000 people in the company or about 10,000 people using a particular bank. So you need to do your research and meet that user's needs. And this is going to build a better customer satisfaction. Now, it provides return on investment, and it reduces cost for development, bug fixing, marketing, and so on. Now, in a company where they avoid user experience, right? If they take out this step in their software engineering process, and then they just wake up, hey, we have an idea, we want to develop a mobile app for this bank. They take out UI UX, and then they just go to development. Then the developer starts writing the code, they do bug fixing, and then the marketing team goes out there. What is going to happen is this product is going to sync out there, and there will be no track or no traces back to it. So from the very first statement, you realize that there's a difference between a product that succeeds and one that sinks, and this is user experience. So if they avoid that step in the software engineering process, a lot of things is going to come up. One thing you need to put in mind is it's better to start your UX at a very early stage of your software development process. You don't want to start the software development, maybe they have a first version and then you're now doing your research and everything. No, start your research early. Get to know who your users are. Don't build based on assumptions. And a lot of companies do that. They avoid everything and then they just go to development because stakeholders or investors want to see the actual mobile app on the Play Store, right? No, we don't want that, because if you do that, your product is going to fail, because mind you, there are a lot of competitors out there. So user experience design is very, very important when it comes to software development. Get to know who your users are. Get to know what features of that mobile application is actually usable, useful at that particular time in that particular time. Don't just build the app. Now, UX provides products which are less risky to business reputation. Now, using Cowbank again as an example, I don't like the bank because they failed on their mobile application. Their reputation have been, damaged. So if you want to prevent that from happening, UX is the best way. Make sure your UX team is actually providing a product that will not go out there and then destroy the company's name. Oh, just repeat it twice. So these are few importance. If you understand what user experience is, you might be able to point out a few things from that in terms of importance. Now, I'll touch on usability. Usability is tied to user experience, right? Because every single mobile application or digital product needs to be usable. Now, a few definitions. Usability is a quality attribute that assesses how easy user interfaces are to use. The word usability also refers to methods for improving ease of use during the design process. That's from NN Group. And the second definition says, usability can be described as the capacity of a system to provide a condition for its users to perform the tasks safely, effectively, and efficiently while enjoying the experience. And this is what I wanted to show you earlier. Now, I like this definition. It says the capacity of a system to provide a condition for its users to perform the tasks safely. I'll show you few qualities when it comes to usability, but then when you design a mobile application, there needs to be that capacity for the users to be able to perform whatever they want to perform very, very, very safely, without no harm, without no stress. In terms of banking application, there needs to be that assurance that their money is safe in your application, right? They are not going to make a mistake while transacting effectively and efficiently while enjoying the experience. They need to enjoy that experience, right? So if you think I touched on, okay, I've not touched on it there. Effectively and efficiently. So we'll look at that in the next slide, while enjoying the experience. Now, the quality components of usable product. Effectiveness. Can users complete their goals with high degree of accuracy? You need to make sure that the ease of use for people to be able to complete whatever they want to complete is very, very, very simple. Now, one thing you need to put in mind, I think I mentioned, is that when it comes to every product out there, age group differs, profession differs. Whoever is using the application is not the same as another person using the application. Everyone and how they are using the application. For example, I'm in school, I might be using this banking app to pay for food, airtime, and all that. A mother of 5 kids will be using it for a different thing, maybe paying school fees and all that. And at every point in time, maybe when she's using the application, there might be a different experience at that point. That's in terms of her physical experience, not in the digital world. So maybe while she's using the application, her kids might be distracting her or something. Your product needs to be built in a way that even after attending to her kids, when she picks the application, she can continue from wherever she ended. You don't want to make things so complicated for her. Efficiency, all about speed. How fast can a user get a job done? So when we jump on an e-commerce platform, right? How fast can we complete a particular thing? How fast can we maybe get a product, add it to cart, check out, and make payments? All this thing comes in place. There was an example from interaction design, right? So users, I'm just reading something for users can navigate to buy button in 294 seconds on average, right? After a redesign, the users can navigate to the buy button in 198 seconds, Now you can see that the process has been streamlined. Probably maybe the first time the battle was hidden, but maybe they took it out to do a redesign. Another statement, 18% of users bought a ticket on finding the landing page. The second one is 32% of users bought a ticket on finding the landing page. So you realize that after the redesigning, there's been huge improvement. And that's what return of investment means in the previous slides. What is it? Yeah, UX provides improved return on investment. So basically what it means is if you are doing a redesign of a product, how can you assure your stakeholders that, hey, this redesign I'm doing is going to bring or is going to increase sign up, is going to bring more sales. That is what investment RIO means, return of investment, ROI, yes. Now, satisfaction or engagement, how pleasant is this to use the design? Visuals again. At the beginning, I mentioned that I like UI a lot. I like designing a lot. So you need to make sure that your design skills is very, very, very good. Now, errors. How many errors do users make? How severe are the errors? How easily can users understand and rebound from those errors? Errors are bound to happen. You can't prevent them. Like users, should I make this statement? Okay, no. At every point in time when people are using your product, they are learning from the product, right? So at every point, they'll make a mistake, they will learn from the mistake, they'll make a mistake, they will learn from the mistake. But you need to make sure that you reduce that error that's happening and the error doesn't cause huge damage. I advise you guys to read on the 3 buttons that caused, what's it called? Let me just Google it. 3 buttons that caused. Okay, 3 buttons that changed history. If you Google that, you probably find the articles, 3 buttons that changed history. It was 3 different button designs from 3 different decades, but they all caused a problem in each decade, right? And that would show you how important it is, or when it comes to errors and all that. So you make sure that when an error is happening, it's not causing so much damage in terms of a financial application. If the user mistakenly pressed this and it's a mistake, how what problem are they going to cause? How severe is it? You understand? And how easily can users understand and rebound from those errors? When an error happens, you don't leave them to just figure it out. There can be so many directions to help them, like additional comment. Okay, do this, do this. For example, if you're signing up for you're signing into maybe your Instagram account or something, and then you type a wrong password, you don't just see the red text field. They give you additional description saying, hey, probably maybe your email or your password was wrong. That's one way to help them understand the mistake they've made at that point. Learnability, how easy is it for users to accomplish basic tasks the first time they encounter the design? So I give an example of when maybe a company does a redesign. A company does a redesign of their product and relaunch, or you update the product and you relaunch, you realize that they give you this onboarding button. Yeah, Chigo's button. 3 buttons that changed history. They give you this onboarding fill, which kind of walks you through the new update that have been made. 1 second. They give you a onboarding that shows you the changes that have been made with these arrows pointing from here to here. So you get to understand why this was done or something like that. I want to see if I can remember the name. Yeah, I think they call it instructions on NN group. I've dropped the link, you can check it. So that's one thing you can put in mind. Learnability, how easy is it for users to accomplish basic tasks the first time they encounter the design? So again, this has to do with familiarity. You don't want to just reinvent the whole every time and then confuse your users. They should be able to accomplish tasks and learn from the design every single time they launch the application. Now, this statement should ring in your head every time you're designing. Design that is good for people is good for business. At the beginning, I mentioned that user experience has to do with users. It has to do with people, people's emotion. You don't design without users in mind, without research, anything, and then expect your product to succeed out there. So a business that is successful is based off the people or the design that was focused on the people. So design that is good for people is good for business. Now, every good UX process, which we'll look at shortly, starts with people. So if you want to have a successful product, you need to make sure that your UX process is starting with people. Now, the UX process, before I continue, does anyone have any question? You can drop in the chats. All right, I guess there's no question, so I'll just proceed. All right, so the UX design process. One, this process is an ongoing process, which means it continues. But because the fact that it's an ongoing process doesn't mean it's a linear process. You can start from the first step, go to the third step, come to the first step, go to the second step. It depends on the problem you're solving. It is not, hope UX doesn't require coding. No, please, it doesn't. I mentioned I don't like coding, so you should know that it doesn't require coding. And UX is not the same as UI. It doesn't require coding, nothing. Okay, but so the UX process is an ongoing process. It continues even after your product has been launched. It still continues, right? And it's not a linear process. So it's not something like we can say step 1 to step 2 to step 3 to step 4. No. When you start step 1, you can come to step 3, come back to step 1, and so on and so forth. So the first step is discover. And I think you guys have they've already taught you guys some design thinking, I should assume so. There's a few things similar in here, but discover. Discover. So in the discovery stage, what you want to do is you want to validate the problem to solve. So I mentioned this already. We've been presented with a problem by maybe our stakeholders or something, and we want to provide a solution. We need to make sure that this is actually a problem, right? We need to validate that from out there, do our necessary research. We need to define and understand business objectives. What is the business trying to achieve at this particular time in their company goals, right? So that again has to do with the return of investments. I'm going to read something. If you can show that the change you are going to make in your design can generate more sales, result in a larger number of customers, or make work process more efficient, you have much stronger case for investing in UX. So normally business objectives, maybe the business wants to maybe increase their number of users, or they want to increase the click-through rates, is that what it's called? Yeah, the click-through rates on their website or something. You need to make sure that when you're doing your design, is focusing on that, but then you're not ignoring users' emotions, or you're not ignoring your users. Then you need to identify who your key users are, and then you get that inspiration. So how do you identify who your key users are? From research, so surveys and all that, talking to people and everything, you get to understand if it's actually someone that is going to use your product or not, right? So we validated the problem, we define and understand our business objective, what we are trying to achieve in this business. We identify who our users are, what their problems are, and then we'll gather a few design inspirations. We'll move on to define, and then we define what success looks like. So what are we going to call success when we are done with this project, right? And this has to do with the business objective. If the business is trying to increase sales, or maybe increase the number of tickets that's bought every month, maybe that would be a success for us after the redesign or after we relaunch the application, right? So there's things like creating user journeys, job stories, personas, and everything in this particular stage in your design process, which is the define. Now you have the idea, like the name says, ideas. So you come up with ideas at this point in time. So we've been able to validate our problem. We know who our users are, what their needs are, what they are trying to achieve, and everything. So we come up with ideas, we get messy, we go outside. If you're lucky to be in a team, you work together with your team to ideate on this. So there might be so many variations of a particular flow, right? So just test and all that. Then you involve your clients. Now, this is very, very important. Involve your clients or your stakeholders. There's this thing called the poopy swoop or something like that, where it says whoever has the power to say no at the beginning, at the end of every project should be involved at the beginning of that project. You don't want to do something and then you're 80% done and then the CEO comes and says no. There's been a waste of time, resources, energy, and everything. So whoever has the power to say no at every point in time should be involved from the beginning of the project. Then you do a little bit prototype. Now, the word here, prototype, I'll say wireframing. So just do some little sketchy, ugly wireframes to just put your ideas in place, right? To picture your ideas so that it's not all in your head. Now you move to the fourth step, which has to do with prototyping. So at this point in time, you are creating different fidelities, right? You have so many ideas that you think might work. You come up with so many. There are so many types of prototypes when it comes to wireframing. There's low, there's mid, and there's high. So you can either do it on paper, you can either do it on a laptop. It depends on how detailed you want it, right? But always start from sketch because that's not going to take a lot of time. Then you explore various interactions for effectiveness, so interaction design. Then you understand where the user flows falls out. So when you do your wireframe, right? Maybe it's an e-commerce platform, you're able to build out the wireframe and everything. Then you realize that, okay, from here, the user goes here, they go here, they go here. And then you realize that there's a step taken out or there's a flow that's out of this step. Prototype is going to help you do that. And it's good to do the prototype now because you don't want to do the final design and then you check it and then you now have to come and correct all these mistakes. So when you do little or low wireframes, you get to test them very, very fast, right? You can spend 20 minutes on doing a wireframe, but when it comes to UI, you might probably maybe spend 40 minutes. So go in for the wireframe, you do it fast, you test, you come back, you iterate on it. Now, once you prototype, you test and then you refine. So you validate your assumptions, right? You uncover real user behavior, you iterate, you refine for development. So at the beginning, you did your research. You were able to discover who your users were. But then once you're done, definitely there are going to be some few assumptions that is going to be put in there, right? Because if you're in a team of 5 designers, everyone might have different views. So maybe for one particular flow in your product, you have like 3 different flows. This is all the time to test them. So if you remember, Instagram did an A/B test last year. Yeah, last year, where they were trying to test the Reels tab and then the Short tab. Every user had different tabs. Even for me, on the same phone, 3 different accounts had 3 different tabs. That was an example of testing, an A/B test. So all we're doing was they were presenting you with 2 different, I think it was 3 different, 3 different solutions, and then they see how people use each solution, right? And then they can make a decision from that. So you need to validate the assumptions you've made. Clearly, that was an example of what Instagram was doing. Maybe it was an assumption, so they just put the different navigations there. Some people were having reels on their bottom now. Some people were having reels at the top. Some people were having shops here. Shops. Instagram will get their final say from how people use it and then the feedback they get from how people use it. Because there are so many products out there. For example, on a website, you get to see how someone navigates your website. Maybe when they got to your website, they clicked this, they did this. There are so many products out there that helps you to be able to get that insight and then make decisions. So at this point, you want to test everything you have and then reiterate on some of your assumptions, improve on your flows and everything. Once you have everything well figured out, that you can actually build a high fidelity and go into development stage, right? Now, every company or every team and how they want to solve their problem. Let me give you an example. So one company might start from discovering, they get to see who their users are. they do their define, build personas and everything. They come up with their, maybe at ideating, they will start doing wireframes to start testing. Then once they get the test, they go. They don't even have time to come and do a lot of high-level prototype. You understand? Some company might skip the sketch, come and do hype. It depends on what you're working on or who you're working with or your timeline or how fast you're going, right? There's not, how do you say it? There's no one way to do it, right? Understand? One thing I tell a lot of people is UX is common sense. Because I mean, if you have a boyfriend or girlfriend, you're not going to do something they don't like. It's the same thing when you have a user, you don't want to do something that's not solving a problem for them. So when it comes to UX, it's common sense. Try and use your head at every point in time. And one skill you need to build is a problem-solving skill, or the brain to think about a problem deeply. You don't just, I think one guy posted on LinkedIn that always design for redesign, in the sense that your first solution shouldn't be your final solution. After redesigning that solution, you come up with something better. After you come up with something better. So you need to build that mindset when it comes to UX. Okay. Now people ignore design that ignores people. Involve your users in your process. People ignore design that ignores people, and involve your user in your process. At every point in time, like I mentioned, there's not a linear process. Maybe after discovering who your users are, you go to define and then something else came up and you realize that we don't really understand our users well. So you would go back to the discovery stage to understand well who your actual users are and what their problems are. Maybe you missed a few things from talking to them. You didn't really understand them well. You just rushed things through, right? Now, on that note, there's three things you need to put in mind when it comes to UX. What, why, and how. You always need to ask questions a lot. What do you want? What do you want to do? Blah, blah, blah. Why do you want to do this? Or how do you want to do that? Or this and this? And you need to have a lot of questions. You don't give people questions that is going to give you a yes or no answer. You need to give them questions that are going to let them talk, right? You don't give them like A or B and then choose A. That's not going to give you enough information. Ask them questions like, how do you want to maybe order from an e-commerce? Let them open up and tell you, oh, I want to be able to do this. Okay, why do you need this product? So that they can open up, tell you the actual reasons why they need that product. All this might sound like, Charlie, is not useful. Why do I need to go and ask all these questions to just design a product? But let's put in mind, at the beginning, we said user experience is one of the determining factors, if not the determining factor, between a product that syncs without trace and one that sees huge sales. So you need to make sure you're not designing just for aesthetics sake, but you're actually solving a problem. Now, there might be some of you here who don't like what I'm saying. Just like myself, I don't like what I'm saying. User experience might not look fun, but it's fun, right? But if you get to the point where you feel like you don't really want to do this side of things, you can just stick to UI. You can just do user interface design. Just, be able to design very, very well, because there are companies where these people are different. They have people who are on the ground doing the research, doing all these things I've spoken about, and then they gather their insights, they give it to you, the user interface designer, and then you start building. You understand? You feel like, oh, I want this, because even when you take user experience on its own, there are so many fields in it. There are user researchers, there are UX copywriters, and so on and so forth. So it's a very, very broad field. You don't need to force yourself to just be a user experience designer or UI UX designer. Pick one where you have a stronghold, and then you're good to go. Okay, this is the end. I'll see you on Thursday, but before that, is there any question? We have 10 minutes. Oh, that was very timely.
Okay, guys. So thank you so much, Regan. If you have questions, please drop it on the chat. If you have questions, please drop it on the chat and your instructor will go through them.
Okay, so there's one question from, I can't pronounce the name. Is onboarding the same as usability study? No. Onboarding, how do I explain it? When onboarding, how do I explain onboarding? Okay, let's go to NN Group. Let me read the definition of onboarding for you, and then I'll from there. So onboarding is the process of getting users familiar with a new user interface. It can involve one or more of the following components: feature promotion, customization, and instruction. So when you download an application for the first time, and before you even sign up, you see maybe 2 or 3 screens that is talking about the product. Like Coinbase has an onboarding. There are so many onboarding screens. Let me share a different screen here. Can you see Chrome? Can you confirm if you can see my Chrome? I switched tabs, so.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Oluwa. Oh, I know this guy. Let me open another screen and show you what an onboarding. So onboarding just informs users of new changes and application, thoughts about the product, new promotional. Try and read this article after class. You'll understand well. Wow, bad network. I'm trying to show you an example of an onboarding. Okay, good. Also known as walkthrough. So if you see walkthrough, you see onboarding, there's an example of it. My network is bad. I've dropped the link for you. Okay, good. So this is an example of onboarding. So you see these 3 screens here. It says connect your contents, grow your following, make and collect money. So even before I enter the application, I know what they are trying to tell me from here. This one is from Loom. It says record and share your screen or cam. Shop like a pro, staying. So onboarding basically gives the user a fair idea of what they call it, the application is about, right? Now usability has to do with something totally different. Let me share the new screen. Usability has to do with something different. So we looked at usability, the quality attribute that assesses how easy user interface are to use. So some way, somehow, usability, like I mentioned, is tied to user experience, right? So it has to do with how simple your application is, just like the name says, right? It needs to be usable at every point in time. How do we carry our key users along during the UX process? Okay, so this is dependent on every company. Some companies, so if you are designing a product that is an existing product, you already have users in the company, right? So you can reach out to those users and then have maybe you are doing a redesign. So you can interact with those users throughout your whole process because they are your users, right? But if your product is new in the market, you're now going to identify who your key users are going to be this time around, which means you're going to have a pool of many users, people that are going to stay and people that are going to go, that are going to come and go. So you need to be able to identify that during that process. But if your product is existing, you have users already, carrying them along is quite easy. You just have to make sure at every point in time you're communicating with them, right? You don't take a decision without talking with maybe some of your users or interviewing them or something like that. It's just like interacting with people, right? That's basically what it is. Another question was, I explained 3, really. What was it? Oh yeah, true. Valuable. I didn't add that. Yeah, true. So valuable product delivers values to the business and to the customer. So I think I'll share this presentation with Emanuela, so they'll share that with you. I'll add that to the definitions over here. So UX is all about making research so we can meet our users' needs and for them to have a good experience with our products. Exactly. but it's not all about making research. But you get the whole idea. It's getting to know who your users are, meeting their needs, so that you're solving their actual problem. Because, like I mentioned, every product is solving a problem. There's no product that is just there for statistics. Figma is solving a problem. XD is solving a problem. Instagram is solving a problem. Facebook is. You've absolutely. I hope you understand.
Okay, I think there's one more question at the chat, if you can see it from your end.
Motivation. Can you put the question? Well, let me see if I can understand it. If you mean what is good design, Timmy.
Okay, I think he's asking what are the motivation for a good design.
So similar to what a good design is. Should I answer that question well? Let me share this. Timmy, so if in case I don't answer the question, let me know. So I'm going to give you I think 7 or 10 points from one of the designers, Rams. So he mentioned good design is innovative. Good is similar to some of the things we looked at. It makes a product useful. Good design is aesthetic. Good design makes a product understandable. It's honest. It's long-lasting. It's thorough down to the last detail. It's environmental friendly, and it involves as little design as possible. That is what good design is. Let me share. I don't want to go too much on every single definition. We're out of time. Let me share this article. Since UX is all about the user first and center, how do you empathize with them? Because from my understanding, this task requires someone with psychology expertise. Exactly. So two questions. Okay, so the first question, this requires someone with psychology and expertise. So you are correct, but then this is something that every human can learn, because I mean, empathizing with people it's your emotions, unless of course you don't have emotions, you'll not be able to empathize with them. And like I mentioned, you are not your users. So when you are designing a product, you need to put your emotions aside. Sometimes at the end of your findings, you might realize that this is the direction you need to go. You might not be happy with it as a designer, because you might think, oh, I don't like this, I don't like this. Just remember, you're not your user, you understand? So you don't need to necessarily have a psychology. I tried studying psychology, but I stopped. You don't need to necessarily have a psychology background to be able to empathize with people. It has to do with emotion. Now, let me read something. A friendship. A good designer is one who is ready to do what it takes for the user to have a product that works, and they are comfortable with it at any given time of the day, in any mood they are in. Example, you've designed a mobile app. The developer has built it, shipped it out for testing, and the feedback is to circle. You got feedback, critiques, and all that. You get the feedback, and it says there are more changes to be done until the user is satisfied with what you've designed. To become a good designer, you need to put your user first and be willing to do necessary back and forth changes until you get a design that works best for them. No matter what we are designing for, sometimes, they make jokes about clients coming back with changes and all that. Sometimes it's just assumptions, but if it's actually built on actual users' feedback, then you have to be ready to do your necessary research and improve on whatever variation you have the first time, right? Because your users are your focus every single time. You understand? So you don't necessarily have to have a psychology background to be able to empathize with them. You just have to put your emotions aside, take whatever your users are giving you, validate it, and then work on it. Sometimes people say users are foolish, or they don't know what they want, or something like that. Sometimes not like they don't know what they want. They are not just articulating what they want well. So you yourself as a designer need to be able to put it back to them. Are you trying to say that like try and understand and communicate with them as much as possible. But if you want, you can study psychology. Doesn't mean UI and UX can each stand on their own. Yes, please. But at the end of the day, whatever UI you are building needs to be backed with actual data or good research or information or insights. The last question, I think I'll answer it in some of our classes. How do user personal tax flow, user journey, etc. What effect does it make? Yeah, I'll answer that then we have another class. So I'll answer that on Thursday because I'll teach on it. So there was another question. Where's that question from? So Jane, yes, how do you carry out a research reach out to so much users? So one simple way is surveys, like example is Google Forms. But you have your questions in there, and then you put it out there to get people to actually respond to it. You understand? I don't know if any of you have ever. My line is breaking. Oops, my line is breaking.
Yeah, Regan, please, you can go on. Sorry about that.
Okay, can anyone hear me? Can everyone hear me clearly?
Yes, we can.
All right, let me answer the last question. There was this question I was going to talk about. Yes, so research, how to reach out. So Google Form, I don't know if any of you have ever taken part in user testing or something, but it's basically interacting with people, you understand? So how can you carry out a research to reach out to as much users as possible? If it's a new product, you have your survey, you put it out there, ask the right questions to get feedback from people. Pose question. So if it's about emotions, then we are prone to being biased in our research. Yes, exactly. Now, what will make you a bad designer is if you avoid the actual stuff and then put your emotions in there and be biased. You understand? We'll talk more on Thursday. I think I forgot to. Yeah, on Thursday we have another class, so we'll go deep on Thursday. All right, I think we are 3 minutes past time. I'll see you guys on Thursday. Emanuela.
Okay, yeah, thank you so much, Regan, for today's class. So guys, it's going to be taking you on Thursday and for next week too. So the questions that were not answered today, you can go ahead and bring those questions back in the next class, which is on Thursday. So I'm going to paste his LinkedIn. So you guys can follow him on LinkedIn and you can reach out to him. So please check the chat and connect with him via LinkedIn. So guys, thank you so much. Thank you, Regan, for today's class. Thank you so much. And also the material is also going to be available. So I will share that with you guys. All right, thank you guys. All right.
Okay, bye.
Yeah, bye everyone.
Thank everyone.